multiplying by numbers that are close to multiples of 10. Here's the worded question. Remember, because it is a question that is given in worded form, I will need to put my final answer in a sentence. My dad works at a big company. His building has 6 floors on it. There are 98 windows on each floor. How many windows will need to be cleaned when the window cleaners show up? So first of all, we need to find out what the original math question is. So first of all, how many groups do I have? In this particular example, our groups is the number of floors. We have 6 floors. So for our actual equation, we will start off by doing 6 times, we need to know how many windows are on each floor, which is 98 windows. So our actual equation is going to be 6 times 98. Now this is obviously going to be a little hard to figure out. We won't know the exact answer right away, but we know that we can get to an estimated equation, something that's close to this. So our number of floors hasn't changed in the question. There's still 6 floors, but instead of timesing by 98 windows, we could say 98 is really close to 100. So let's try timesing this by 100. And based on this, from our trick that we learned a few weeks ago, we know that we can do 6 times 1 equals 6, and then we add how many zeros? 2. So we know that our answer is going to be close to 600. But is there actually 600 windows? No, it's just close to 600. There's actually 98 windows. We estimated up. We said that each floor has about 100 windows, just like this hundreds block. So this block equals 1 floor of the 6 in this work building. So to show all 6 floors, I would need 6 blocks, just like I have here. Kind of even looks like a building, all the different floors in a building. So now we know that I can make an array that shows 600 by going like this. We know from what we were studying the last few weeks that that equals 600. Now let's remember that 600 is our estimated guess. So this shows our estimated guess because we have 6 blocks that have 100 in each of them, but we don't have 100 windows on each floor. So we have 98, which means that 100 take away 98 is 2. So there's 2 extra windows that we need to block off on each of these hundreds arrays. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use these little blocks here that show that 2 blocks are going to be taken off of each of the 100s. So now floor 1 has 98 squares, floor 2 has 98 squares, floor 3 has 98 squares. Same with floor 5, and floor 6. So now these blocks show my actual equation because there's 6 floors that each have 98 orange squares. So I could count all these orange squares and that would give me my answer. But now, of course, that would take a long time. I'm not going to go and count all these orange squares. I will write my estimated question and then take away how many blocks I have overestimated by, which are the little white blocks with the X's here. I'm going to put my equations inside of brackets to keep them separated, which I will show you next. So my approximate equation, as we already saw, was 6 floors times about 100 windows on each floor. Then what we'll do is we will take away the number of windows that we overestimated by, which would be the little white squares on those arrays. So on this one here, we have 6 groups still, times, for each group, there's 2 white squares. I'm going to show you that by taking them off again and putting them, so floor 1 has 1 group of 2. Floor 2 has 2 groups of 2. Floor 3 is a group of 2. Floor 4, a group of 2. Floor 5, a group of 2. And floor 6, another 2. So you can see when it's laid out like this that there's still 6 groups that have 2 in them. So this is a math equation. 6 groups would be 6 times 2 in each group. So this number here is the number that I will need to subtract from my estimated total. So now that we have this whole thing, it might look complicated, but it's actually really easy. All we will have to do is, staying in the brackets, we will solve this equation down here, this equation down here, and then we will subtract the two numbers. So as we already know, 6 times 1 is 6. We add the 2 zeros, so we've got 600 take away, and 6 times 2 is 12. So our numbers here now are 600 take away 12. You can imagine that if the brackets weren't there, that's all that the equation would be. I just keep the brackets there to keep them separate. So 600 take away 12. When I do this, I think of, okay, 600 take away 10 would be 590. Take away another 2 would bring us to our final answer of 588. Now, this number doesn't mean anything to me until I put it back into my sentence, though, because this was a worded equation. Remember, if I just wrote 588, I don't know if we're talking about birds or if we're talking about rocks or what we're talking about. So then I have to write my answer. There are 588 windows for the cleaners to clean. And that is how we would complete that question. In the first example, we subtracted because we had to round up by 2 to get to 100. What if the question had been that my dad's building has 6 floors with 102 windows on each floor? How many windows total would have to be cleaned? So this time we have more windows. We would be estimating down. So the actual equation, there's still, the groups are 6. There's still 6 floors times 102. And we might not know that right off the top of our heads, but we know that we can get close. We'd still be estimating 6 floors times approximately 100 windows. So, still the same thing. Each one of these represents one floor, but this time when we look at the array, you'll notice that there's also 2 extra windows for each 100 floors that the cleaners clean. There's also an extra 2 windows per floor that they would have to clean. So, if I was to take these windows, all of them, and put them over, you can see that for each of the 6 floors there would be an extra 2 windows. So once again, look at the circles there. You can see that there's 6 groups, 2 in each group, which as a math equation would be 6 times 2. So, very similar to the first one, our estimate number is still 6 floors times approximately 100 windows, but this time we're going to add those extra windows because for every 100 that the cleaners clean, there's an extra 2 that they have to clean. So it's also, once again, still 6 floors, but times 2 extra windows for each 100. So we're adding this time. So 6 times 100, as we know from before, is 600. 6 times 2 is still 12, but for this time, it's a little easier because just 600 plus 12, which would be 612. So our sentence answer would be there are 612 windows to clean, because I have to put it in a sentence. So as you can see, you'll have to be very careful when you're reading these questions because it'll depend on the wording and whether you have to estimate up or estimate down as to whether you will have to add or subtract when you are doing these equations, okay? So just pay attention. I know you guys will do a great job. Good luck, okay?